G'day, this is a used review of this unit here. This is a Rossi BT-750P. This is a battery charger and it's a jump starter. This is a unit sold by some online retailers. It's pretty cheap for what it is worth and what they say it can do. So I've owned this for years at this point. The new models are a little different. They've got a digital, this has got an analog amp meter. If you can see that on the top just there, it's analog with the old needle that goes backwards and forwards. The new ones are digital. That's kind of neat. So, but how do they go? You know, is it worth your buy? So what have I bought this for? I bought it for jump starting and for charging, which is, you know, what it's built to do. I've got another battery charger as well. I've got a couple of battery chargers on the farm. Now this one is billed. If you go and buy it, you jump on the website. I think this came through eBay, but there's a couple of other. You can buy it direct from the manufacturer or the importer now, which is Edisons, I believe. You can buy it direct from them. So first up, how's it go? It's on wheels. You can wheel it around. It is a cheap copy of another unit. I've got one here. Okay. That is a Telwin 210. So Telwin make a model very similar to this. So that unit's a Telwin 210, and Telwin make a unit like this on wheels. It almost looks exactly the same. So this is a copy of that. When you buy this unit, when I bought it, it was billed as, you know, a diesel engine, large diesel engine jump starter, tractor jump starter, truck jump starter. Now, that's where this thing starts to fall down a little bit. Is in buying it, I didn't actually read all the specifications I should have. This is only up to 750, I think. Where are we here? 750 amps. So if you've got a Hilux, Land Cruiser, Ranger, Triton, they've probably got an N70 battery, depends on which one you've got, but this is probably going to be on the limit to jumpstart that thing. It depends on what battery you've got in there, but it's not uncommon to have something like, you could have something higher than that. So this will probably do it. I have jump started the Hilux with it. But 750 amps is what it can do, and that's on its limit. It's got replaceable fuses here. This is not a good system. So what you do is you put, what is it? How many fuses are it? 50 amps. So you put two 50 amp fuses on top of each other. The design would be better if it was like the Telfair unit where you just put a single higher capacity fuse. I don't like running them like that. This unit has tended to blow a lot of fuses, but the reason it's principally blown a lot of fuses is because, in my experience, you know, if you want to jump start a Hilux and you got that N70 battery on whatever manufacturer, whether it's Supercharge or Marshall or Excite or whatever, it's right up there on what its limits of what it can do. So I've blown a lot of fuses in this thing. It's 24 volt as well as 12, which is good. Now, as I said, I can jump start the Hilux in it. I can charge it. It hasn't worked great as a battery charger. I've relied on my other battery chargers rather than using this because it seems to be intermittent in terms of what it would charge. So, you know, look, for what it is, the principal problem with this thing is what it's built to do. Can it do it? Yes, it can. As I said, I have jump started my Gators with it. I have jump started the Hilux with it. But again, it is on the limit, and if it's going to be drawing a lot of current, it'll blow the fuse. So it hasn't hurt the unit, but it has been frustrating where I've gone to, you know, jump start something and blown the fuse. But as for any of my tractors, this won't jump them. It just doesn't have the oomph to jumpstart any of my tractors, and my previous tractors were all around 90 horsepower, but the batteries were just too big. So before you bought one of these things, I know they're a fraction of the prices compared to my other unit that I showed you previously just a minute ago in my Telwin. My Telwin has a much larger, so what it can crank, where are we here? So we can crank to 900. and it can do 140 amps. This one can't do that high. How many amps is this one? 50 12 volt, that's 750 amps, but to charge it can do 12 volt 50 amps, 24 volt 60 amps, whereas my Telwyn, yeah, it can charge at a lot higher, mate. But having said that, my Telwyn is, you know, well on the way to 3 times the price of this unit, so, or what I paid for this unit. So you'd want to check it. If you had a Hilux, Triton, D-Max, and you've got something under 750 amps, then this will probably do it for you, the 750P, but you just want to read these specifications first. So if you charge, check your battery. This will do 50 amps on a 12 volt charge. It'll do 60 amps on a 24 volt charge. And to start it, it'll do 750 amps, 12 volt, 24 volts. So you need to make sure your battery and your amperage is going to be under that. Otherwise you're going to blow fuses. As I said, I was hoping that this would do my tractors as well, but didn't do enough reading on the amperage before I bought it, then ended up buying a larger one for doing jump starting on the tractors. But you know, so I think if you wanted something cheap to stick in the shed, you know, to jump start the Ranger if the battery went flat, just check your amp. If your amps are on the required battery is fine, then you're probably going to be okay with this unit. But just be aware that it will do it but it's only just going to do it. Would I buy it again? No, I wouldn't. I'd buy a bigger unit that can cover more of the stuff I want to jumpstart here. So this hasn't been able to successfully jumpstart my 3500 Ram, for example. I did try it one day, promptly blew the fuse, but the amps on the battery are just too high. It just doesn't have the oomph to do it. So would I do it again? I know it's only, I think it was $300, $250 when I bought it. So I think they're about $300 now. Would I do it again? No, I wouldn't, because it's just too much of a compromise across my suite of vehicles. But again, if you're only trying to start a 4-cylinder diesel, your battery's underneath that amp, it's probably going to be fine. Or you could just make sure make sure your batteries are in good shape. It's pretty really rare that you leave your lights on in your car or your interior light on nowadays. It's pretty hard to do that. Kids, if you've got kids, but if you're going to lock your car, you push the button to lock it, the car's going to tell you that you've got an interior light on, headlights are left on, or they'll just turn the lights off anyway. Or you haven't shut your door properly and your battery's going to go flat. So most modern cars will tell you, in which case, you know, it's less and less of a need that you need a jump starter. But if you were going to buy one and you were thinking of this one, you do more investigation than I did, is my advice. Because again, I went into this thing wanting this unit to do a whole lot of stuff. I wanted it to do tractor. I used to have a 24 volt truck. I wanted it to do all my vehicles, the farm vehicles, the Ram, Land Cruiser, and that's where I didn't do my research enough. So I actually have a larger unit now. So this is largely relegated to, you know, a dust collector. It's not really worth anything to sell it because they're so cheap. So it's handy as a backup. But it allows me to keep a battery charger in my the different properties in case we get stuck. But like if my larger Telwyn was available, that's the one that I would use. And if I was buying from scratch, I would spend the extra money to get something large. But again, it's probably going to be okay for you if you're just running a 4-cylinder, you know, diesel that has an amp requirement below 750. And if your other car in your garage, if you've got a Mazda 2 or a Suzuki Ignis or something, you know, you've got a small petrol run around and you've got your Isuzu D-Max there as well, this probably be fine. Cover everything you ever want to do. It'll only be if you're running multiple vehicles with large amp batteries that have a large cranking amp requirement, then you just want to check out whether this can do it before you buy it, because this is the largest option you have. With the Rossi units, this is the biggest one you can get. You can't go bigger. So either this will do you, or you're going to have to go to a brand name, let's say, and that's going to cost you a lot more money. So if this will do it, makes good sense. I'm not telling you not to buy it, because if you had as I said, you know, a little hatchback, your little Toyota Yaris or something, and then you had your family dual cab, this would probably be fine if your amps for the dual cab are okay. It's only in my situation on the farm where I've got lots of farm equipment, skid steer, tractor, and this just won't, it doesn't have enough guts to kick it over. So hence the reason for a bigger unit. So, but I've had no problems with it in terms of the only time I've blown fuses and stuff, that's only because I've been asking too much of it, quite frankly, or I've had it right on its limit. There's been no problems with its build construction. This has bounced around in the back of the ute more times than it should have, and it's cracked its handle, but the main body of the unit has been fine. The alligator clips are solid, and they're still in fine condition. Before I did this review, I plugged it in. This is probably 10 years old, if not more than that by this stage, and it's running a-okay. So the new ones have got the digital display, which I can't comment on, but that would only seem to be a good thing as far as I'm concerned, to have the digital display than the analog. So that wouldn't prevent me from doing it. So I hope this was useful for you. The principal thing I can tell you is check the specs. If you check the specs and everything you want to do is below this, it'll probably be fine for what you're doing, for charging your battery up or for jump starting it if you need to. Thanks for watching.